recall our very first lesson, we talked about the differences between WSS, MOS, and even the MOS Enterprise. So that there's various levels of this particular product that you've kind of slowly become familiar with. So what are the differences actually? Was WSS written completely different than MOS, or is it built on top of MOS? Well, in 2007, they actually built MOS on top of WSS. And the previous product, 2003, there were actually two different products. So the navigation in 2003 for WSS and the server product were completely different. And a lot of the user experiences between those two products were different. What you're going to find in this product is that the user experience should be very close to the same. So you're going to have additional features that you get to have access to, but for the most part, the navigation and a lot of other things work exactly the same way. How did Microsoft actually build the MOS features into WSS? Well, I've used the word features now a couple of times, and that's really the focus of this particular lesson. So what we're going to take a look at is what features are. Let me give you a demonstration of exactly how SharePoint is using these features. So if I come into the Site Actions and I go into this Create menu, we're going to notice that we have our libraries, communications, tracking, custom lists, and web pages. This probably isn't new to you. You've seen this screen quite a bit. So now if we come into Site Actions and Site Settings, we are now going to come down to Site Features. So you're going to actually notice that because I'm a site collection administrator, I have 5 columns. We have our site features, and then we also have site collection features. There's also features that are available at the farm level and the web application level that as an end user you don't have access to. Those are going to be in the central administration. But here under our site features, we have a list of options. So if you actually have MOS installed, you're going to see an option for Office SharePoint Server Enterprise Site Features. And so this is responsible for the business data catalog, form services, Excel services, and things like that. You're also going to notice that we have the Office SharePoint Server Publishing feature. And this feature is really important. This takes care of a lot of the base functionality that we've talked about, the differences between the two products. So we're going to talk about that here in a moment too. But the one I really want to focus on here is the team collaboration and lists. So if I come and deactivate this guy, and here we're going to get a message, and this is just Microsoft letting you know that there's a lot of third-party features out there that you can get. You can get a number of them off Codeplex, and they don't always know what you're deactivating. And sometimes features will add things to your particular site, and when you go to deactivate them, they may or may not remove data. So this is just kind of letting you know that if you deactivate this feature, some things may be lost. I'm feeling pretty confident in deactivating this particular feature, so I'm going to go ahead and do so. Now, when I come to Site Actions and we click to Create, we're going to notice that we only have our libraries, custom lists, and web pages. So we've lost all of these other columns. Well, what happens is Microsoft has wrapped up all of those other features into a team collaboration feature. And really what happens is that each one of these, the document library, form library, announcements, contacts, they're really their own little feature, but then they have a big feature over them that goes through and activates and deactivates all of them. So in really order to kind of show you how that works, I'm going to bring up the actual server that SharePoint's on. So here's my server. Let me go ahead and minimize, and you can say this is where I'm keeping all of my users and things like that. Now, features are actually stored on the file directory of the web application. Because you're an end user, you typically won't have access to the server, but we're just going to actually show you what the feature files look like. So I'm going to come into the Windows Explorer. We're going to go See, Program Files, Common Files, Microsoft Shared. We're going to scroll all the way down, Web Server Extensions, and the 12 folder is where all of our SharePoint stuff is in. If we come in now to the templates, we're going to see that we have a features folder. So if we click on here, now we have the opportunity to kind of look at all of the features that are available to MOS Enterprise. Now, if you have WSS and you have the ability to look at this particular folder, you're going to notice that you're going to have a lot smaller list. But if I come up here, we can actually see that we have announcements list, custom list. So a lot of those same things that we had in the features are available here. So now what I want to do is find that team collaboration feature. Scroll down just a little bit more. And we have Team Collab. Now every feature actually has a feature.xml file associated with it. A lot of them are going to have a lot of different information. So if we come into some of these other ones, they'll have folders and templates and things that go along with them. But every feature has to have a feature.xml file associated. So we're going to come in and find a Team Collab. I'm going to actually open this particular guy up. And we're just going to open them up with just a regular editor. And then this is when you learn that the Team Collab is actually a dependency feature, and it'll go through and activate a number of these other ones. And these basically all translate to the announcements list, contacts list, and things similar to that. So that's really how features get added to your system. So if you go off the Codeplex and you add a feature, this is where that information is going to be stored. So let's go ahead and go back to our site and continue our examinations of the feature files. So we'll do Site Settings, Site Features, and let me actually go back and do Site Settings, and notice here that we have navigation. We discussed in a previous lesson that your navigation experience is going to vary based on whether you have a publishing feature turned on or off. So if we come into a site features here, with the site collection features, we're going to see that we have an Office SharePoint Server Enterprise Site Collection feature. We have the Office SharePoint Publishing Infrastructure, which is the one I'm looking for. And I'm going to go ahead and deactivate that guy. Now, there's a couple of things that happen that lets me know that the change has happened. Actually, we're going to notice that SharePoint 101 has now switched back to home. So when that feature is on, this first tab will actually have the name of the site. Now, if I come back to the home page, we do Site Actions, Site Settings, now we're going to see that we have our top link bar and quick launch bar. So that feature does a number of things, but one of the things that it does is it supplies us our navigation tools. If you do have MOS installed and not just using WSS, and you see this particular navigation, then in order to turn that on, you basically just come in and do Site Actions, Site Settings, Site Collection Features, find the SharePoint Publishing Infrastructure, click Activate. I'll go ahead and scroll back up while this is going, and then notice here the home is going to change back to SharePoint 101 once that feature is in there. Then we can go to Site Actions, Site Settings, and then you're going to see that the navigation is back to the MOS version. So really in this lesson, we just kind of talked about what features are, and the difference between WSS and MOS is the use of features. And features are stored on the web front end, and they are stored in the 12 hive inside the features, and each one of those has a feature.xml file associated with it. For most of the end users, that's information that's really not going to be important, but what is important is that you can change the functionality of your particular site with a lot of these different features. So I would encourage you to spend some time getting to know some of the features that are available to you in your site, and make sure you have everything working exactly the way that you want it to. So we'll see you in the next lesson.